and welcome to another episode of Lie, Cheat, and Steal, the podcast about liars, frauds, thieves, and bullshitters. I'm your host, Patsy Royce. With me, as always, my co-host, Kath Barbadoro. Kath, how you doing?
I'm good, Pat. I'm real good. How are you?
I am doing excellent. Just dropping energy drink cans and giving nice sharp rings there to the mic.
I was wondering what that was.
yeah, that was they made a cool noise. I'll give it that. No, I'm doing good. Just out here in Austin, getting ready to do a show tonight. By getting ready, I mean just not really doing anything for it, but it's gonna be that they were like the little email that was hyping the show was like at every table they're gonna have umbrellas and pitchers of water because it's an outdoor show.
Oh,
so
wow,
that should be good.
So it's like a billion degrees out.
Yeah, so
I'm
looking forward to that.
I'm tonight. I'm very excited. I'm going to a orientation session at a new gym that I might join where they do powerlifting, which I'm like super pumped about because I'm really interested in it, but I'm too scared to do it by myself. I feel like I'm getting to the point with lifting weights where like I kind of need someone to watch me do it because I'm lifting heavy enough that I might injure myself if I don't use like a Smith machine. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm pretty pumped about that. I'm gonna get buffed tonight. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. All in one night, man. That's all it takes.
I'm expecting by the time I leave, I will be buff.
Yeah. If I'm gonna walk in looking like that one corgi in the meme, and I gotta walk out looking like the strong corgi in the meme.
Exactly.
Yeah. But an orientation for a gym, that's cool. I guess that makes perfect sense now that I heard that, but I never thought of that being a concept.
Yeah, man.
Just get on here, check this gym out. We'll talk to you about it. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm trying to think of a segue for this story from getting buff, and I cannot. Similar to me being weak and then getting strong. That is similar to the situation the American economy was in after the 2008 recession. How's that?
Oh, okay. Man, that is. Oh, that sounds like a Hill think piece right there. Yeah. I like that.
That is kind of the setting of this story that I'm going to tell you today. So my friend Sarah sent me a link to this because I was posting on Twitter about suggestions for stories. And this one really spoke to me. So my friend Sarah is from Alabama, and this is a story about a small town in Alabama and how they were swindled by a would-be tech entrepreneur. So this is a story of a guy named Kyle Sandler. Have you heard of him by any chance?
I have not. I would just say, don't swindle small Alabama towns.
I know.
Tech people. You know who you're supposed to swindle. The guys in Silicon Valley. Swindle those guys. Leave the small Alabama towns out of this.
Yeah, I feel like this is a story of really, getting the humble, the salt of the earth working people are the ones who get taken for a ride here, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you say Silicon Valley because they get taken for a ride based on those sorts of dreams, based on the tech utopian vision of the future. So that's kind of what Kyle Sandler was all about today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he was really just monorailed those guys. He
kind of did. Yeah, I feel like that is the best metaphor for what he did. He monorailed them.
Which that needs. I feel like that word and that usage and that needs to catch on. I'm going for it. Monorail.
I feel like we all know. I mean, again, maybe this is a generational thing, but we're referring to the iconic Simpsons episode, of course.
Yeah,
man. So I will tell you this story. So I have a few sources for this. I got a lot of this from the AP, Wikipedia, those types of places. There's also a Generation Hustle episode about this guy, so I watched that, and I did some other kind of poking around here and there. So this is a story of Kyle Sandler. So the small town in question here is Opelika, Alabama, which is a town of about 30,000 people in Alabama. So like pretty small.
Yep.
It's let's see where it is. So it's kind of on the border of Georgia and Alabama. It's kind of near Auburn. So just like a tiny little town.
Yeah. Sounds like a place I very well might play a winery at.
Yes, absolutely, you may. Yeah, and it was like a lot of towns like that struck pretty hard by the recession, and in the couple years after, they were really hoping to attract more people and more investment to the city. So Opelika in 2014 became one of America's first quote-unquote gig cities, which meant that they had gigabyte internet, which was huge. There were like a couple other cities, and they were all kind of small like this, and hoping to see some economic development and tech investment from it. So Opelika was like chosen to be one of these gig cities. It was really exciting. And that is when Kyle Sandler comes to town on the wake of this gig city thing. So
be careful of guys that look like him showing up when your town gets fast internet.
yeah.
I just got a picture of him like he's because is the internet at 1 gig? It's like, oh, hold on, you need to get out of here, bud.
It's it's like the civic equivalent of like a guy going into a coffee shop and not buying anything and asking for the Wi-Fi password. That's what he's doing to you. But yeah, so Kyle Sandler, this is again a small town, so like word got around when he arrived. He was, according to him, we'll get into what he actually was. But according to him, he was a one-time Google executive. He got rich in tech, and due to family ties and this gig internet program, he had chosen Opelika to set up his next project. So his wife was from the area, and, he was like, perfect, let's go.
Okay. Did he really have a wife? That's like part of his
whole wife. He did have a wife.
Part of his life. He's like, my smoking hot wife grew up in Opelika. She is currently out of the country doing humanitarian work. But
no, she was real. Although she does not figure into this story all that much. But yeah, he seemed like the real deal. It was 2014 in a small town, and he was on his phone all the time and talking about startups. He drove a Jaguar, so that stuck out in this small town.
Yeah.
And people were just like, this slick Silicon Valley guy is here to come revitalize our economy. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And so he started a business incubator called the Roundhouse, and that was his business idea in Opelika. It was like
business incubator, they necessitate helping small businesses get off the ground, helping find funding for projects and stuff.
Exactly. That was what he was all about. He and people said he really did have like a talent for pitching stuff and getting people money. So people were really into this guy. There were all of these little projects that started from Roundhouse. The two that were profiled in the Generation Hustle thing, which I think were kind of funny, were Tennisbot, which is quote unquote a Roomba for tennis balls. So, you have your like ball pitching machine that like shoots tennis balls at you. This machine sucks up and collects all those tennis balls after you hit them. Okay. So
that's the existence of one creates a need for the other. I get it.
Precisely. And then another one that I thought was very funny was called Fraps with a Z, Frapz.
Okay, I'm willing to bet that Z means they're taking a funky stance on something.
So Fraps, it was short for frat raps, and the idea was basically that businesses would, through Fraps, basically lease the back of college kids' laptops for advertising. So, like, college kids would get paid to put a sticker of a company on the back of their laptop. So that was Fraps.
I feel like it's one of those things. I hear it at first, I'm like, huh, and then it like the reality of that. I don't know. It seems like a really bad idea that is just dumb enough to sound like a good idea.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's again like it's definitely not like Tennisbot in that I'm like, I don't think this was like a need that is being solved here. But hey, Fraps was doing pretty well. Fraps actually had funding before they went to Roundhouse, so like people were into Fraps. Okay. So
I'm seeing these laptops walk around. I'm just seeing missed opportunities. Right? That's what I'm seeing.
Empty billboards, man.
Yep.
So yeah, like there were businesses that were working out of Roundhouse, and Kyle Sandler was like their guru, kind of their champion. So,
Does Opelika have a college presence?
I don't think there's a college in Opelika, but it's right near Auburn, which is where University of Alabama is. So I'm assuming that is why. Yeah. So, things are going well. People were excited. There were lots of local people who invested in the Roundhouse because he was such a good promoter. One guy said, "I think he could get money out of a guy living under a bridge," which is like a very like complimentary way to say he's a good pitchman, but also I feel like is a good description of him as a scammer because he basically took all of these people's money.
Under a bridge or in Opelika or something similar to that, you know?
So their sort of faith in Sandler only deepened when he got involved with John McAfee, who... John McAfee is the creator of McAfee virus software, antivirus software.
Yes.
So,
and he is also a character in and of himself.
Yeah, he's an insane person. Like, he's dead now.
He is dead.
This is how insane he was. He died and then timed it to put up a QAnon post on his Instagram just to fuck with people. He was a crazy person.
Yeah, so, he live on an island with an all-female security staff or some shit like that.
Yeah, he had maybe killed someone. He ends up in Opelika due to this gig city thing as well.
Yeah.
But also because he is on the run from the Belizean government. It's he's a shifty character, but he does have respect and name recognition because he was an early tech entrepreneur. So, he's running around Opelika telling people about how much cocaine he does. And then, but he gets involved.
Something most people try to not talk about. He's
right. No, but
let me tell you how
shit.
much I do.
Yeah. He was telling people that he had done more cocaine in his lifetime than he weighs. He was just telling people that.
That's a solid brag.
Yeah, very good brag. But yeah, so he gets involved with the Roundhouse and that, people are like, oh, the antivirus guy's here. Cool.
Yeah.
Then just as sort of a tangent about McAfee, but while he's working with Roundhouse, he launches a campaign for president in 2016. He ran as a libertarian and Kyle Sandler was his campaign advisor. So
oh wow.
Yeah, so he's doing press conferences at the Roundhouse for his presidential campain, which was semi a joke but also semi not one of those.
You see who rolls into town when the internet gets good. It's a strange assortment of people.
Exactly, just a real cast of characters. So McAfee, after this all kind of breaks bad, he says that he was also scammed. He says that he was not in on it. But yeah, man, just a bunch of shady characters around.
This guy got McAfee. That's one of those things where I truly don't know who to believe in that case.
Right? Yeah, me neither. Because he is an insane person and a dumbass. So he maybe would get scammed, but also he's a shifty character. So who knows?
Yeah.
So the big sort of star of the Roundhouse, of all of these businesses, the one that everybody sort of pinned their hopes on, and that was Kyle's sort of personal project that he was championing, was this project by a 13-year-old named Taylor Rosenthal. And the fact that he was so young got them a lot of media attention. But he also he had kind of a cool idea. He was a baseball player, and he said that, he'd play baseball games, and he said every time a kid got hurt, I would notice that a parent wouldn't be able to find a Band-Aid, and I tried to come up with something for a class I was in called the Young Entrepreneurs Academy. He was in 8th grade, and his idea was basically a vending machine that had first aid products in it, which
yeah.
a pretty neat idea for a teenager. Doesn't seem especially groundbreaking to me, but cool,
Yeah, I guess I hope the prices be reasonable, It just
Right. It would be interesting if there was some like diagnostic element of it, like you put in what the problem is and it gives you stuff you need. Like
Oh, yeah,
it could
that'd
be
be dope.
cool. It had
Yeah.
like a little touch screen on it, and so this idea, Taylor Rosenthal, the kid, raises $100,000 in local money to like build some prototypes and stuff. He gets featured on the local news, and Sandler helps him get invited to a TechCrunch event in New York. He's like the youngest person at the event. The company is called RecMed at this point, and they get a ton, like I said, a ton of media attention. They get on CNN, CNBC, Fox News, a bunch of other national media outlets. And the story starts to really pick up when they hear that there's been an offer to buy RecMed for $30 million. And so they're like, oh, wow, this kid,
Whoa.
like, he came up with this amazing idea. So according to interviews at the time that Taylor gave, a major healthcare company had made the offer, but he'd rejected it because he was holding out for $50 million. He wanted to keep growing the company, and so this is like a crazy story,
Yeah, this was the kid that rejected. That was supposedly the kid rejected the offer, or
kid.
Kyle did.
Supposedly the kid did.
Okay, Tyler. Jesus.
So, his father says, in retrospect, that Sandler had showed them some documents with that said that Johnson & Johnson was interested. He showed them emails that said that Six Flags had expressed interest in buying some of the machines and putting them in the parks. They were really excited about it. They actually ended up meeting with Johnson & Johnson about it. So, they're like, this is awesome. This is going really well. Every time this kid does an interview, it's promotion for the Roundhouse, for the other businesses that are being incubated there, for this whole program. It's, it's advertisement for the town. Like, it's win for everybody. So
thank God they met this guy.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know what they would have done without him.
So, like, they're also getting all through this time investments from like local people with money. So a lot of them met Kyle Sandler through the Rotary Club. This is a small town. People the people with money all hang out with each other in small towns. That's
oh yeah.
There are like 20 rich people and they all know each other.
Yeah.
So, like one guy who was a Rotary Club member said, quote, after a couple months of him being around and talking to other people at Rotary who had invested with him, I sat down with my wife and I said, let's give this guy some money. They put in about $35,000 and helped fund a prototype of the medical vending machine. However, so this starts in like 2014, all of this stuff. By the end of 2016, some people are starting to get a little bit suspicious because Sandler is like missing payments to people. The Fraps guy moves out at this time because he's like, I keep being promised money and I'm not getting it, and I just like I don't want to be a part of this. So like people start to kind of get wise, and Sandler says, like, if you don't have confidence in me, I'll buy you out. Like, don't worry about it. I get it. I'll buy you out.
Mm-hmm.
So around this time, he opens a second Roundhouse in Mobile, Alabama. And he's kind of around in Opelika less. Like, people start seeing him less. That obviously like keeps the pressure on him. People are like, what is your deal? Why are you gone all the time?
Right. Like, if you can see the guy that owes you money, that's a lot more preferable than if you can't see the guy that owes you money.
Exactly.
That's a whole new set of problems.
But so he keeps telling people like, the money's coming. We've spent a lot on these businesses, but I have an annuity from Google because I was like an early employee at Google. So like once I get my annuity, I'll be able to pay you all back and everything. So the day of the annuity coming arrives, and he's like telling the people at Roundhouse, like, hell yeah, I'm excited. And then he like goes in and is like sitting on his computer for a while. And then he calls some of his colleagues in and shows them some financial documents about the annuity. And one of the coworkers point blank says, hey, I saw you photoshopping this on your computer. Like,
oh shit.
yeah.
Oh man,
calls
okay.
him the fuck out.
I love a full stop like that. It's like a lot of the stuff is like a lot of times these stories are it leads up, it's incremental, you know. Like somebody's just like, I love that. This is like this reminds me of is it the final season of Breaking Bad where Hank had just walked to Walt had just walked into Hank's garage, and instead of like holding it out for 4 or 5 more episodes, they just immediately like shut the garage and be like, bitch, this is what, like they get right down to action. It sets the whole final season up. That's dope.
Like, and it's also like, it's nice because it's like these people in Opelika aren't idiots. Like, they're not,
exactly.
They really were not conned in a way that is like super unreasonable. Like, and people
they invested in a company.
Yeah, and people really did like stop giving this guy the benefit of the doubt pretty quickly. So like, basically this coworker confronts him, like word gets around, he's been promising buyouts to people, the buyouts never arrive, and he basically just pieces out. He just leaves. Yeah. And like we always say, like we're like, why don't people skip town anymore? Like, this guy fully just like locks the doors at the end of 2016 and pieces out and like leaves Opelika.
So that's what I like. That maybe shows a good scammer is he's willing to not only embrace new school ideas by scamming people about online ventures, but he's tapped into the classics of the scamming world, which is just changing the locks and getting the fuck out of there.
You need to know like when to cut and run. That's something that is the downfall of so many people we talk about on this show is they don't know when to call it.
I wonder if there's something that's like tangible, or maybe it just seems this way, but it's like because it's harder to do, and there's so much like, I don't know, tied into being like to your image and your brand. That's like what's motivating people to scam. Do you think that it's like people are less like back then or back in the day? I think people were more likely to like be like, no, I am a scam artist. I'm a scam artist. I'm gonna do this. When shit gets hot, I'm out of here. Do you think there's a difference in today's scammers that are like, no, I'm truly like, it's always guys who think things are gonna shake out. If I just hold on to this, eventually, like I'll ride this out, and everyone will see me for the good person I know I am.
Yeah, and a lot of people drink their own Kool-Aid,
Yes.
And this guy, like, it actually kind of seemed like he did up until that point, which we'll talk about later. But like, I do think that is, if you're gonna like if you have these tendencies, you need to just be like, my job is conning people because
it's the healthiest thing, because that's going to give you the self-preservation. Like your delusion gives you the grandiose ideas enough to pull things like this off, because you do need a little bit of delusion.
Yes.
But like it's that realization that you're a con man that's going to make you survive. That's going to give you that fucking instinct to being like, oh, I can tell the temp's getting too hot. Time for me to skip town. That's so important.
Yeah, you need to know when to cut and run. I mean, that's how you avoid the Henry Hill,
Yeah, exactly.
You just get the fuck out. And that is what this guy did.
Man, one of these days we should do an episode where we just like constructing certain elements of different scams and put it together in Frankenstein, the perfect scam. Where like they got in early enough, they got out at the same time. Yeah, that's down the pike.
But yeah, so like this whole town, like tons of people got taken for a ride by this guy, and then he just leaves. And again, it's a small town, so people are just like commiserating on the fact that they all got fucked by this guy.
Yeah.
And like there is an investigation into him after this, but they're all just like, we got fucked. Yeah. Like, I don't think there's a lot of hope from them about. Man,
but one thing I got to say, about when you have the town of Opelika sitting around in the wake of you scamming them, discussing on what to do next. And this is not a dig at them. I think the idea of killing you comes up pretty quick.
It does, yeah. Like you cannot go back there for sure.
Yeah. You might be able to show your face in Silicon Valley again to ripping some people off, but you rip off Opelika, it's best to say the fuck out of Alabama as in general, because they've got an idea of how they want to deal with your ass.
Right, because like that. I mean, you lose a couple $1 million in Silicon Valley, people will still give you more money. Like,
it happens all the time.
It happens all the time, but that is not happening in Opelika, Alabama. They're like, you fucked up. Get out of here.
Yeah, we're not gonna give you all this money twice, buddy. All right.
Exactly. Yeah. You've taken us for all we have. So, Yeah, so he pieces out, and this is when people start kind of putting the pieces together of like what actually happened. So he raised about 1.9 million from investors, and he basically like overvalued the company. Like he issued stock certificates for twice as much as the incubator was worth. He was using that money, you know, for personal expenses and stuff. Like he had the Jaguar and everything.
Yeah.
Which, side note, apparently the reason he got McAfee on board was just because McAfee saw him driving a Jaguar around and was like, "What's up, dude?"
Hey man, I've done as much coke as I weigh, and you're like, "Oh, okay, cool. I have a Jaguar. Why aren't we hanging out?"
Exactly. So it turns out like he was overvaluing the company. He also the saddest thing here to me is this story with Taylor Rosenthal, that kid, because like he and his family were just totally manipulated into all this stuff. Sandler had like fabricated all of the offers. Like no one was actually offering millions of dollars from this company. He did actually get them a meeting with Johnson & Johnson, but it was like after he had fabricated correspondence with Johnson & Johnson.
Like, you know, and I wonder what the person from Johnson & Johnson thought that meeting was. They probably thought they were like, oh, this is like a goodwill for the cameras. We're hanging out with a kid who has an idea for healthcare, blah, 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 blah. Like this is definitely just us doing that. And meanwhile, I wonder if the parents initiated any talk about the offer and the guy like just didn't know what they were talking about.
Yeah, I wonder how they played that meeting. That's a really good question, and I don't know the answer, but I
would imagine. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just go ahead.
I can just imagine like the guy who thinks he's there is like under like goodwill, like kids in science pretense kind of thing,
right?
And he's just like, and they're like, yeah, well, you know, we had gotten the office to 30,000. I wonder if he just was like, oh, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but he just smiled and was like, yeah, you know, we do offer, you know, we've been
offer
looking into things
scholarships or whatever.
Yeah. Or it's just like, let me just say a few sentences real quick to like pretend that I heard that, but I don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and I'm certainly not going to confirm in any way that I could be legally held to. Like,
yeah.
And then Homeboy had to be sweating in the corner. Like, I hope they don't start talking about this offer too in depth.
Right. Like, I don't know how he played that. It must have been a real tightrope act. But I do think it's interesting, like, when we talk about people sort of believing their own delusion, like, this guy was fabricating offers for this family, but he also was trying to get them meetings with Johnson & Johnson. So, like, that is very much like the tech scammer believing your own hype mindset of like
believing it into existence.
I just need to string this along long enough to get it to actually work, you know, like that kind of thing. Because like he had all this investment money, you know, like there were real companies working out of this business incubator that he ran. Like there was the potential for something to work out, but it wasn't going to be this vending machine thing, which like is like I said, it's a good idea for like a kid. There is already like the one of the reasons people started kind of getting suspicious was because they heard about these offers and they were like, there already is a company that makes something like this. So like I don't understand why they're getting offered tens of millions of dollars to acquire this thing. Like
It also made you think like, hey, we shot ourselves in the foot. We repped this idea too hard, and now everyone is just more aware of bringing Band-Aids. It was backfire. Now we put Band-Aid in the public consciousness, and now people are just bringing them to baseball games now.
Another thing that they sort of put together after he skipped town was, remember he said he opened another one in Mobile?
Yeah.
They think he was probably starting to do like a little bit of a Ponzi scheme of getting money from investors in Mobile to pay back the people in Opelika. So
I 100% was like, that's probably. I thought that was like the move there.
Yeah. So like they realize that they've been sort of taken for a ride. They realize how. Then they start figuring out like what this guy's deal was. So he was, according to everybody who knew him in this town, he was like very well liked. He was, clearly smart. He was a really good talker. He did have some eccentricities though that in retrospect kind of got people thinking. So one of them was that people would go over to his house for parties and stuff, and his house was like gross. He was like it seemed like he might have been kind of an animal hoarder. Like his house was just like full of pets, and it was disgusting.
Oh,
So-
I mean, I saw like I did look up a picture of our boy, and I could see him being the kind of guy who like he like come over to his house. He's like, "Oh, hey, what's up, man?" He opens the door like 4 inches and slides out of it and shuts it behind him. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah,
Like he's never lets you get a good look in there, you know. Yeah,
So-
can't stop the smell that comes out though.
Totally, yeah. Apparently it was just like very gross.
Yeah.
But he was married, so he convinced a woman to live there, which is surprising. But
Yep. Oh, it's always shocking, but it happens quite a bit.
yeah, I mean, we'll get into it at the end of the episode a little bit, but I'm a little bit baffled that he got a woman to marry him. So, because another thing that is really funny about him that people noticed is that he loved American Greed. It was like his favorite show.
Yeah. You got to keep some of those interests on the hush, Playboy. Okay, you can't just be out here talking about how you love and respect the scam, you know?
Right. It did make me wonder. I was like, did he listen to our podcast? But
Yeah. I wonder because it's happened before.
this was prior to us starting the podcast,
yeah.
unfortunately. So he was spoiler alert, he was in jail by the time we started the podcast. So
Hey, buddy, if you know, I don't know what you're doing, but if you're out, you know, if you're listening, don't drop us a line or communicate with us in any way. But just say what's up, you know.
So yeah, he loved American Greed. People were like, "Oh, that seems kind of weird in retrospect. Like maybe he was getting some pointers, you know."
Yeah, for sure.
But so here's like the real thing about him. And he did apparently some of his investors who called him out before he left town. He did admit this to them that he was not ever a Google employee. He never worked for Google.
Yeah. He's in tears. I never worked for Google. You just got. It's just that moment of just like that's what you want. You know, this is the guy just crying and be like, yeah, you're right. I never worked at Google.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he did work in tech. He was like a promoter of startups, but not in Silicon Valley, just kind of on his own time in Maryland where he grew up. He called himself a, quote, serial entrepreneur, which makes it sound like a crime, so don't use that word. I just think that don't serial dater, serial I'm a serial monogamous, like whatever. Just don't use that. It's too reminiscent of serial murder.
The only reason we even say the word anyways is because of serial killer. Like that's the only reason. It's even in our lexicon.
Exactly. Like if you're saying I'm a serial X, like a cop is going to be like, he's escalating. Like it's not gonna be good. But yeah, so before he moved to Opelika, he was not a Google employee. He was actually a felon.
Hey, much cooler. Go with that.
Much cooler.
Yeah, I've hung out a ton of felons. They're great. I've hung out with very little Google employees, but I imagine they're kind of lame. Sorry
Probably
if you're out
not
there.
as fun.
Probably not as fun.
Yeah. So in 2010, he was convicted in Maryland and North Carolina for attempted theft and forgery. He never went to prison, but he was convicted. Also, in the Generation Hustle episode about him, they have some former classmates of him, and one of them has the most iconic quote where they just said, "Back when we were in school, I think he was mostly known as the kid who burned down the putt-putt." So it's all hearsay, but they were like, yeah, man, this dude loved to set fires, which is terrifying. But
oh no, yeah, man, that's crazy. Yeah, so like he just loved to set things on fire, and then also the putt burned down, and everybody was like, we all know it was him, and it just was never confirmed.
Yeah, so like that was the rumor, was that he burned down the putt, but
which was crazy because his senior quote was literally, "I didn't burn down the putt." So I don't understand where the confusion comes in here.
For real. Yeah, so another really funny thing is there was an online review of him from when he was a wedding DJ in North Carolina.
Yes.
Which I like, classic job for a scammy person is wedding DJ. Just like,
because all you're doing is plugging in your phone and fucking hitting play on Spotify. I feel like, like I've been at a few functions where like the ad on the Pandora came up for the DJ's thing. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, especially like I feel like Spotify has kind of made that type of scummy guy go extinct, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because there are people who like actually DJ who you could hire for your wedding, but like these types of people, yeah, no, they're just a guy who got a mixer off Craigslist and is like, I have a career now, you know. So,
what was his DJ name? Was
I don't know. That's a good
Oh,
question.
okay, no, yeah.
It just says he was a wedding DJ. I'm sure it was something Productions LLC, whatever.
Yeah.
But they said somebody who hired him said that he pocketed a deposit of $250 and then just didn't come to the wedding. So couldn't even come do a bad job using your phone. Just didn't come at all.
Damn. Yeah, that's something. That's something.
Yeah, it's quite brazen.
Yeah.
So yeah, he like clearly had a criminal record. The thing that is crazy is like, why did no one check this stuff out? Because as far as I know, he was not using an alias. This was all under his name. I guess it's a fairly common name, but yeah, I don't know. Nobody thought to check up on him, you know? Yeah,
man. You know, it's sometimes like in I think it's Ipaloka or Lycomopa, Icalopa, and they're like the Jaguar that does a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
The fact that like it came in on the gig internet, I feel like it made sense. They're like, oh, of course, guys like this are going to start showing up,
right?
Like,
and they were like really eager for somebody to come do this. Like they were.
This is why they did it. You know, like there was for this type of opportunity.
Exactly. And then like John McAfee is there, and
this guy's doing more coke than he weighs. You know, like everybody's really just on flying on cloud nine at this point.
Yeah. So they just didn't. Yeah, it was a too good to be true thing that nobody wanted to kind of check up on. So he does get arrested for his activities in Opelika in June of 2018. He had fled to College Station, so that's where he was after he pieced out from Alabama.
Hell yeah, hanging out in Aggie land.
Yeah, and he pieced out to the point he left his wife. Like he just went fully on the run.
Damn.
But by the time he was arrested, he had a new wife. He convinced yet another woman to get with him.
No, damn, yeah.
And they had a scam together. So he, like, when he was arrested, he had formed a startup company with this woman, and they had plans to sell $650 million in shares with a minimum investment of $10,000. So he was basically just doing it all over again, but scamming this woman who. So apparently, when he had been arrested, he was technically. He was in successive marriages where he never divorced anyone. So he was married to 3 women at once by the time they got him.
Hell yeah.
So
damn.
I know. I just don't get why this guy is a pimp. Like he looks like a tech nerd. Like he's not attractive. He is a like weird scammer. His house is full of smelly animals. I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah, man. Some dudes, I don't know. Some guys, there's just something about looking like they're really good at Super Smash Brothers that just does it for some ladies. So I don't know what it is.
I think you're right. It's very strange to me.
He's just really good at that game. That's all it is.
But yeah, so he gets arrested in 2018. He pleads guilty to 2 of our favorite charges: wire fraud and securities fraud.
Hey, just the classics, man, the bread and butter.
Again, he doesn't mess with success when it comes to the traditions, you know?
I gotta say, I like this. Yeah, he's got strong fundamentals. It was like he's like the he was coached by the Greg Popovich of scamming. Like he just knows, like he's got a strong ground game. He knows. Yeah, I'm a fan of his delivery. You know, like how he
his style. And it's one of those things where like it maybe could have worked in another place with people who were not, you know, quite as ready to call his bluff. It's hard to say. And so according to him, he says that he did not initially plan on scamming, but then greed got the better of him. Because like we said, like this was, it was on its own terms, like kind of successful for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like he knows, like, I do believe that he didn't set out on scamming, but there's something about, again, knowing when, okay, things are getting too hot and it's time to go, that like, I'm like, you have to, you're cutting the rope a lot quicker than people who usually ride this thing out and get arrested at their office. You know, you got arrested on the run.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like, it's like, okay, if you did get into this with someone of the best of intentions, you're just very, very honest about the situation at hand, at least to yourself.
Yeah, like I do wonder because like he did scam before and he did scam after, so I don't know how much of his word to take him on, but I could definitely see him at least starting with noble intentions and then going back to his old ways, because he said like his plan was to keep just a majority controlling interest in it, but then after he had raised about $500,000, he started to get greedy and started using it for his own his own ends. So
yeah. Man, that's why, like, I swear, like, I feel like I could just be like, I could just live comfortably and still do the job, you know?
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, I get the coffee I want every morning, you know? Like, all my subscription services are running and on,
right?
But I'm also going to the startup every morning and actually working on getting funding for these people. But yeah, I'm pretty comfy, you know? Like, I don't know. I feel like that's just live comfortably, but still do the job.
The thing that's also like an extra sort of like weird, sad part of it was like he was like beloved in this town. Like, he was like a well-regarded person socially. Like people were really, really, really liked him. And and he
what
like
if that's just what he was after the whole
it
time?
seems like that was kind of what he was after, but then he got greedy, you know? Like I think before he got greedy, like I think he just must regret this so deeply, because he was like, he had the stuff that he wanted. Like he was a bigwig in this town. He gives a quote to one of the outlets I read that said, "At the end of the day, I let the community down, I let myself down, I let my family down, but we were onto something great, and that's why this is so devastating." So like I think in retrospect he was like, man, if I could have just done what you said and lived comfortably, I could have been like, you know, the big fish in the small pond, and it would have been okay.
He reminds me very much of one of the fish owners on Bob's Burgers, where I can just see him like getting ready to leave town at the end of whatever his scam is, and be like, you know, I guess all I really wanted was friends, but well, too late now. The money's in the bag, and you're all tied up, so time to leave. Like I get that vibe where like he considers being empathetic, but then it's just like, no, back to who I really am. You know, he kind of goes along his way.
I really think that's right. Like, and that they talk about it a little in the Generation Hustle episode, which like I don't know how much stock to put into it because it's total projection. But the guys who went to school with him were saying like he was adopted, and he's like ethnically Hawaiian, but he was adopted by a Jewish family, and so they felt like he had a real sense of kind of outsiderness and displacement in his childhood, because he was like a transracial adoption growing up with people who like didn't look like him, and that
in a culture who Jewish people aren't necessarily in the mainstream fold as it is either, you know.
That's a good point too. And so that like they thought that maybe he was fueled kind of by this sense of like wanting to belong and wanting to be approved of. And yeah, I mean,
it's like your Anthony Gignac, the guy, the Saudi prince. It's that kind of thing. I'm not saying, especially with today's like topics of the news, I'm not saying don't adopt. I'm not saying you can't trust him, but I can see that being adopted, especially, you know, if you grew up in a time like any time before like the last 15 years, and like people, you know, people are a little insensitive just about general things in life. I can see feeling a sense of outsiderness and that fueling some reckless behavior here and there.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that transracial adoptees do talk about. Like, I don't think it's like anti-adoption to acknowledge that it's like that's a really hard situation to be in for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think especially, you know, when this guy was growing up, because he's in his I think he's in his late 40s now. So people were a lot less sensitive to those kinds of issues then. But yeah, so he went to jail in 2018, and he just got out in March. So he's free. If you see this guy around, do not give him money.
How mad is he that he missed the crypto wave?
Right? God, he was just ahead of his time. Really.
Yeah.
He could have easily made a lot of money on crypto fucking people over. Yeah.
Damn. Well, that's crazy. Kyle Sandler.
Yeah, like I said, if you see this guy out, don't give him any money, but maybe be his friend. Maybe he just needs a friend.
Give him your time.
Yeah.
You know, give him a few moments of your day, and who knows? You know, it might just turn out to be a great investment.
He should definitely stay the fuck away from Opelika, Alabama, though, because he's
don't go back there. We don't take kindly to your kind out here. So, what kind is that? Like specifically Kyle Sandler. Like your specific personhood. We do not like out here.
Yeah. So that's the story of Kyle Sandler. Worth it? I mean, he didn't really. I feel like he didn't really earn enough money for it to be worth it. Like,
no, he had a few good months.
He didn't get a lot of jail time, but like, this is why you should scam rich people and not like random small towns, because he fucked over all these people and he still only got under $2 million. So like, that's nothing to scamming a rich person. You could scam a rich person out of that off like a good dinner or something.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
you could scam $2 million off a rich person, and if you play your cards right, you could get more even if they found out about the $2 million. Yeah, especially if you're just like, I'm ready. It's moving around. I got money into here. I got money over there. I got money going sis boom ba. They don't truly understand finance, but they get that bullshit part of it. They're like, oh no, money sis boom ba. I get what he's saying. You know, like he's got money out there flip flopping, and I'll go ahead and give him $2 million more. It's the aim at those people.
Yeah, exactly. So
man,
not worth it. But he's out, so he's paid his debt to society, and good luck to him, I guess. Maybe he can go back to being a wedding DJ.
You could go back up and you show back up at that one wedding that you just didn't do 20 years ago and just make amends, you know? Just like knock on those people's door. They're like, who the hell are you? He's like, I'm DJ No Show. Like, and I was the guy.
That's actually a sweet name, DJ No Show. That's good.
Yeah, then you can't even get mad about it. You're like, damn, I gave that deposit to DJ No Show, and it's a little on the nose, but he's not here. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do next.
Yeah.
Oh man. Dude, well, that is rad. Thank you very much for sharing that story with us today, Kath. Guys, thank you for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, we actually, we release 2 episodes a month on this podcast. We also do a Patreon where you can go and subscribe to that and get access to 2 more episodes every month and access to our Discord server, which has been such a magical place to be. Like, it's full of people who are very knowledgeable about crypto scams to keep us in the loop. And what a time for this Discord server to exist in, because I just got to watch like the rise and fall of the last few months of crypto, like through the filtered lens of people who are very smart about it. So our Discord server is a cool place to be right now. Also, you can check me out. I'm on Twitter at PZTX. That's PEEZYTX. I post about my tour dates, which are coming up. I'm going to be in Washington and in Oregon and in like Montana and Colorado and all sorts of weird stuff in between. And so come check that out. I also do another podcast called Good at Plants, Bad at Life, where I talk about plants and global ecosystem stuff and horticulture with a very smart, knowledgeable dude. We talk about some pretty fascinating stuff. So if that's interesting to you, check that out. And Kath, you got anything for us?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this will be out in time, but if it is, I have a live show with my other podcast, What a Time to Be Alive, on July 8th at the Gutter in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. What a Time to Be Alive comes out every week. It's a podcast where we talk about stupid news stories. It's a lot of fun, so check that out. I'm on Twitter at Kath Barbadoro, and I post my dates there for stand-up. So thanks for listening, and hope to see you at a show.
Yeah, guys, we'll see you out there, man. Be safe, be smart, have fun, but above all, don't get caught.
Don't get caught. See you next time.